Let's go.
Wednesday afternoon.
As you say, it has started to reappear, to be fair to them. I think it did at the weekend, and then they seem to think, they're coming out of this, and then they go and lose again. But then the Champions League, PSG, they're no mugs. So maybe that's not necessarily part of what's happened to Man City. They are going to lose the occasional game to great opposition. But yeah, I think perhaps the defence is a factor in this, and I also think Pep's domestic situation. And I know from personal experience, as I've said before, that if you're going through a divorce, particularly if it's not particularly amicable, then it affects your whole life for a period of time, and it will impact in very negative ways, and it takes a while to come out of that. Now, that may or may not be relevant to Pep, but I do know that a split after a long marriage plays havoc with your, should we say, your mental health and everything about your life. It really does play havoc. Not a thing I recommend for anybody. So I would be surprised if that wasn't also part of what was going on there. He wasn't giving his whole self to the job because he couldn't. With other factors in his life, and family, let's face it, is pretty much the most important thing in our lives. So, yeah, I have a lot of empathy for him in going through what he obviously is.
Yeah, I think you might have a really good point there. Because I was just thinking about other players that have that sort of, distractions in their life as well. And somebody that came to mind, actually two players came to mind. One of them is Kyle Walker. He's out that thing. And then Rashford. Actually, Rashford isn't married, but from what I read, he's at his girlfriend is chose to go to like a what's that program where they Love Island reunion or something like that, and I think she, that's caused a lot of, they might have been having problems before that, and then her choosing Love Island over staying with him, that must have, so that may have contributed to his poor form as well. And these are only 3 instances, and all these and all these 3 instances are with clubs that are actually struggling. So Manchester United is struggling with or without Rashford, but when he was there, they were still struggling, weren't they? And then Manchester City, they struggling as well, or they might be coming out of it. And then Kyle Walker wasn't at the top of his game as well. So you might be right there with the relationship thing having an impact on. Yeah.
I mean, with Kyle Walker, I've read yesterday, I think, that he's going to AC Milan, and I thought I read at the weekend that he and his wife are going there. They're changing country to try and save their marriage. So I don't know about Love Island, but perhaps he's hopeful that they can stay together. All right. Who knows? Because no one really knows what goes on. I mean, obviously, people in the public eye, like footballers, you do get to hear what goes on. And clearly, Kyle Walker he's had issues which have clearly affected his marriage. So it's a shame that it's all in the public eye, because that can't help them at all. But no, I hope that by going to another country, another football team, he's a good player, possibly past his best now, but good player. He can do something for AC Milan, and if that, reinvigorates his marriage, then good luck to them both.
Yeah. So the next one is Manchester United. Amorim.
Yeah, well, I think you should cover the most important point first, Cuz, if you don't mind.
Right.
Which I did put on the WhatsApp group the other day, so you might just cover that. Otherwise, I will have to.
All right. So, officially, Crystal Palace.
Yes, go on. This
So
is hard for
officially,
you, isn't it?
Crystal Palace on the Premier League table are in front of Manchester United.
Yay, absolutely.
Yeah.
No but, please, no but. That's it. You've made the statement. You can now carry on with about Mr. Amorim.
Yeah. Amorim seemed to have, he seemed to not have found the X factor to solving the problem with the club in his team at the moment. I mean, he's had a few ups, but he's had more downs than ups. So he's had more downs than up. What do you think really is going on there? What do you think is really going on?
Well, it's hard to know, and if I admire him for one thing, it's his readiness, his willingness to be honest in what he thinks about it all. Of course, they lost to Brighton at the weekend. Man United were at home, so that again, that's not a great result for them by any means. No. And I think it was after that Mr. Amorim said that this was the worst Manchester United team either for years or that there's ever been. And now that's quite an indictment of your team. But I guess what it does show is that it's still not really his team. They're not players there that he's been instrumental in bringing in. Apart, maybe there are one or two, but you still wouldn't say this is team. So I quite like his openness, his honesty. Whether it's, that said, saying something which is clearly very critical of your team and the individuals in it, is that much different from singling out one or two individuals and saying, well, you know, Rashford has caused problems and someone else has, and so on, which I would never admire any manager for doing. You should never really single out a player publicly and have a go at them. And maybe he's doing that by saying this is the worst team ever, but I suppose he's spreading the criticism amongst the whole team. But maybe it's not the wisest thing to do. Maybe he does it more towards the owners, the board, to say, look, you know, I'm struggling because a lot of these players they're not up to scratch for whatever reason. They're not good enough. So he wants a change in personnel. I mean, there's been nothing.
Soft family and the ladies, Dr. Gladys and Phantom and Rose. We all have a lovely show every weekday. So join us for a lovely show. Say hello to Phantom